In today's video, I'm going to show you how you can calculate the numbers behind Donald Trump's reciprocal tariff chart. So that includes the tariffs supposedly charged to the US by these different parts of the world, as well as the tariff rate that the US plans to charge these countries and parts of the world. So it's a really simple calculation. I'm going to show you how you can do it in Excel in really less than a minute. And so whether you want to impress your friends to show them that you know how to calculate this, or you just want some real world data to practice your Excel skills on, I'm going to show you how you can do this. So the key thing is to get the data. So if you go to the BEA.gov website, there is a release for the US International Trade and Goods and Services December and Annual 2024. So if you go to this page, under related materials, there's an option for tables only and says that it's in Excel. So if you download this, that's the data that you need to do these calculations. This is what the file looks like when you open it. There's a lot of tabs in here, but you're going to want to focus on number 14. If you go to tab 14, it's for US trade in goods by selected countries and areas 2024. And so here we've got a list of the exports and imports and the balance. So the balance is just a difference, exports minus imports. And so it's that trade imbalance that Trump is focusing on and the crux of this tariff calculation. So this has absolutely nothing to do with actual tariffs. This is just a difference in trade. And so the numbers that were used here were really just the columns E and M. So we've got the difference in the exports and imports, and then we've got the total annual imports. So let's calculate some of these calculations just to show you how this would have been done. So let's start with China first, because that was first on Trump's list. And actually, before I do, I'm going to paste in a screenshot of what that chart looked like so we can reference it easily. So you can see China at the top was 67% for tariffs charged, 34% for the reciprocal rate. So to calculate these amounts, what we're doing is we're taking that negative amount, that 295, dividing it by the actual import total of 438. Now I want this number to be positive, so I'm going to flip this to a negative value. And so that's where we've got that 67%. Now if we divide this by 2, take that value divided by 2, we get to around 34%. So as you can see, that's how that was calculated. So I can apply these calculations for these other countries and regions as well. And we can spot check to see how close we get to these. Now, for some of these, you'll notice that the values are less than 10%, the global rate that he's applied on all countries. So if we wanted to address that, what we could do is use the max function. So what the max function does is it says, okay, we're going to take either this value or the larger value or the largest of the two values. So 10% or that value there. And that 10% acts as a floor. So now we can say that for the ones that were even, less than 10%, we can apply that 10% rate to make sure that, we have a positive value here. A good example here is the United Kingdom. Even though this was a positive number, there was no negative imbalance, resulted in a minus 9% calculation. But by using that max function, we can effectively create that floor and say, okay, let's just call it 10%. So whether or not that 10% was true or not is debatable. Where it came from, I'm not sure. But based on this methodology, this is how you could have calculated it, just because you see a lot of these issues where there's 10%, it's 10% across the board. They all match 1-to-1. So there's not really any variation. There's not seeming discount. So I suspect that may have been what happened in that case. But for these other countries, though, we can see a more clear path. Like in the case of China, we have that correct rate. It's under Pacific Rim. There we go. So we've got that 34% versus 67%. If you go to European Union, we're at 39% charge. They've got 20%. We've got 19%. So that may be a bit of a rounding issue, or maybe they just want to bump it up to around 20% just because it is a major region. If we go down to other parts, let's say Vietnam was another big one. So supposedly 90% tariff rate, and then 45% was the reciprocal rate. So here we've got 90 and 46. So slightly off again, but not a major difference. Another one was Taiwan. So Taiwan down here, 64%, 32% matches up to what we've calculated here. Japan, another one, 46% versus 23%. So we've got 46, and here we've got 24. So again, maybe a little bit of a rounding issue. Another one, India, 52 and 26. So if we look at India, 52 and 26. So as you can see, not a really complex calculation by the look of it. The only ones that may be questionable are the ones like the United Kingdom, where there wasn't an imbalance, but it was alleged 10%, and so a 10% in return, possibly because they didn't want this number to be lower than this number. And so that's my suspicion that may have been the reason for that, which is why I say that using this max calculation, that would have done the trick to make sure that these calculations turn out positive. But overall, not a very complex calculation to do in Excel. All you're doing is really focusing on this imbalance versus the imports, and taking those two values to arrive at a percentage, dividing it by 2, and then applying that max function to ensure that you're at least at 10%. So that's how it looks like these reciprocal tariffs were calculated. And so feel free to try it out yourself. Just go to that website and get those Excel tables. And then once you've got that, you can see the calculation is not terribly complex to set up. So if you like this video, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching.